Well, Stuart Nash is the MP for Napier as well as the Forestry Minister, and this week he was appointed the ministerial lead for the Hawke's Bay cyclone recovery. He joins me now. Welcome, Minister. It is grim out there for people who are living on the front lines of this disaster, isn't it? Like Ian, like Graham.
Absolutely, I accept that. And I've been out to Puketapu, I've had a look, and it is devastating. You know, you've got men and women who have been conducting business there for years, sometimes generations, and they've lost everything.
So they want to know, you know, that they have stepped in, they have saved each other, they have harrowing stories of survival. Now we are nearly 2 weeks after Cyclone Gabrielle, and they still have no idea what they should do with their properties, how that clean-up is even going to start. As they say, they've seen no one official. Well,
as mentioned, I've been out there, but what I will say is very, very early on, we've stepped up. The Minister of Finance announced that there is going to be, as you mentioned in the beginning of your story, regional lead set up. There is a cabinet committee set up, and underneath that, I'm in charge of the Hawke's Bay recovery. I hope to announce next week a structure of what the Hawke's Bay recovery will look like and how we're going to drive this forward. So I'd like to say to the people of Puketapu, to the people of the East Valley, to Dartmoor, and everyone that has suffered from this, work is going on incredibly fast. There are people out there who do have the answers, and we are going to work and provide every resource we can to get these people up on their feet, provide them with answers and allow Hawke's Bay to build back.
Stuart, that sounds excellent, but it also sounds very top level. They want the army, they want machinery, they want people out there starting to help right now.
Yeah, well, that will happen. So
when will it happen?
Like I said, I hope to have this agency set up by next week, keeping in mind that's 2 weeks. That's really, really fast. First of all, we need to know the scale of the problem. Now, we know out in Puketapu, you've seen the images, you've talked to the people, you know what it's like out there. It is devastation and it is devastating. But what we do need to do is ensure that we have the right processes set up, the right people in place in order to be able to drive this forward in a way that has integrity but moves at pace. I am 100% aware that we will lose the hearts and minds of the people of Hawke's Bay very, very quickly if we are not seen to move with speed.
Is the brutal truth, I suppose, I was wondering this as I was putting together that story, is the brutal truth, you know, that fixing the roads and the bridges and the power and the water, that is the priority right now, and people like Ian and Graham, they just have to wait.
There's a multitude of tasks that can be done, and it's not, you know, any one in particular, but what we will do is segment the tasks that need to be taken into, you know, super high priority, short, medium and longer term. First and foremost, we do have to get the infrastructure sorted. For example, in Puketapu, there are a number of blowouts of the stop bank there. We need to put at least in place temporary fixes, so if another one of these rain events comes through, the stop banks can hold. So the infrastructure, hard and soft, is the #1 priority.
And in the meantime, should those people who are living in those places, should they just leave?
No, but very soon, at the same time, we're having conversations, and hard conversations have to be had in the Bay. I mean, do we allow people to build back on these river floodplains? Very difficult but very hard conversations that have to be had with people like Graham in Puketapu and people up the Esk Valley and so on and so forth.
There will be areas that are red zoned, won't there?
There are areas that are red zoned, but again, you know, in Esk Valley, for example, there was a massive flood there in 1938. There were reports of silt that was 2 metres high. People built back there. We have the flood now, and if you have a look at Esk Valley, it does not look like the picturesque wine country fruit bowl that it was pre-Gabrielle. So these very hard conversations have to be had, and have to be had quickly, but at the same time as we're also getting out there with the diggers and the graders and sorting out our roads and our infrastructure.
Well, you have to take people with you in those hard conversations. I want to ask you, has the Prime Minister driven through the Esk Valley, right down there on State Highway 5? Has he seen firsthand the devastation? Has he walked through the orchards? Has he been on the ground with the people there? Yeah. I don't think he has.
He has. He's been out to the Esk Valley. He went to the primary school out there. He saw the devastation.
I was with him. That was up on the hill. That wasn't down on State Highway 5, and we didn't speak to anybody. I'm just wondering, you know, whether to remain connected to the people in that place, you have to have a greater presence as politicians.
I've been out there. I've spoken to the people. In fact, this afternoon I'm heading back out there again.
Go and look up Graham. He'll be pleased to see you.
So, you know, there are politicians, both local and central government, who've been out there. This week, Andrew Little was out there. Again, the Prime Minister was back. Barbara Edmonds, who who's our Minister of Pacifica Peoples, was in talking to our Pacifica communities. There are ministers that are coming through that are understanding the damage, that buy into the fact that as a government we need to move fast, but we need to move with the support of local communities. It's the reason why the architecture that I'm putting forward to Cabinet on Monday will include a very strong delivery focus as well as a community focus. You can't have one without the other, but we need to move really quickly. We need people who can deliver, we need people who've got the answers, and we need people who can walk and chew gum at the same time.
It's one of my favourite expressions in politics. Do you see yourself as the person who will drive that connection between what's happening at a high level in that agency and what's happening on the ground?
It is my #1 priority. You know, we need to move this really, really fast. And the gentleman that you interviewed there said, is this just going to be another whole lot of committees? I want to assure him that it will not. He will see things move really, really quickly, because the quickest way to lose the public, to lose the heart and the minds and the souls of the people of Hawke's Bay, is just to do nothing and sit in committees and ivory towers. That will not happen, and I can promise the people that, and I can promise they will have regular communications, very regular communications about what is happening, but they will also have the ability to feed into the plan going forward.
Well, people kept, I want to move on to Slash now, but I'm sure that they will be reassured and they'll be looking forward to seeing you out there, Minister. People keep on asking us out there as well, where are the forestry companies? When are they coming in with the manpower and the machines to clean up the slash that's all through Malcolm's Orchard, for example?
So first of all, we're working very closely with the regional council to come up with solutions on how to get rid of that slash. That's the #1 thing.
How do you do that?
Well, there's a number of ways. The council at the moment have a policy of waste separation. I am pushing really, really hard to have controlled burn-offs, for example. You pile the stuff into a big heap and you set a match to it. But it's got to be done in a controlled way that ensures that, you know, people remain safe and et cetera, et cetera. You'd understand that, and I think everyone would understand that. But we've got to start the clean-up. And keep in mind, this is not business as usual. So gone are the days we say we've got to separate the sort of waste here and this sort of waste here and that waste over here, and then we're going to take this. This is not business as usual. So we've got to come up with innovative solutions that mightn't be 100%, but deal with the issue here and now. That
is what people want, Minister, but they also want to see these forestry companies who are responsible for the slash coming down their waterways, like torpedoes, as Malcolm described them, are coming in and helping to clean up the mess.
Well, what they've done that certainly in the Tairāwhiti district.
In Hawke's Bay?
I'm not too sure about Hawke's Bay, but certainly in Tairāwhiti.
Isn't that a moral failing by these companies?
Well, companies and industries actually survive on a social licence, and what we've seen is certain industries and companies actually have to exit markets because they have lost their social licence to operate.
Well, you would have to think that they're at risk of losing their social licence right now in the Hawke's Bay.
Well, forestry is an incredibly important part of the economics of the whole of the East Coast. Forestry companies understand that, and you know they know that what has been seen, certainly in Tairāwhiti, is unacceptable. I acknowledge as Minister of Forestry, it is unacceptable.
So you're going to pick up the phone and you're going to get those forestry companies down there to clean up the slash?
Certainly in Tairāwhiti, they are there at the moment, and forestry companies in Hawke's Bay will do what is necessary to help with the clean up down there.
When?
But certainly in Tairāwhiti, they are working really, really hard to do this. They are, you know, I don't want to come across as an apologist for the forestry industry. I am not. Things need to change. We understand that 100%. It's why we set up this inquiry in Tairāwhiti around sustainable land use or land use management practices on highly erodible soils.
I want to circle back to you. Have you picked up the company to those forestry companies in Hawke's Bay?
Have I picked up the phone?
Yes, and said, get your manpower down there, bring your trucks and your machinery.
Oh, one of the main forestry companies is a company called Pampac that also do a lot of processing down there. Their plant has been absolutely munted. But yeah, they're Japanese owned. The Japanese shareholders have said, we buy into the region, we love this region, we're going to build back.
Have you phoned them?
I've been meeting with Pampac.
Okay,
I know the
so we can see Pampac very soon.
So Pampac actually have a whole lot of machines, and they're saying and a whole lot of workers, obviously, who can't work at the moment because of the state of the manufacturing site, saying how can we deploy these workers in a way that allows us to help with the clean-up.
I want to ask you why it's taken so long to get this inquiry underway. We have had Cyclone Hale in January. We had a young kid die in Gisborne. That is mentioned in these terms of reference here for the inquiry that you've announced. But why has it taken until now to launch this inquiry into woody debris? And I want to note that including forestry slash is in parentheses in these terms of reference. It's not the sole focus, the driving focus,
it's not the sole
is it,
focus.
Minister?
And nor should it be the sole focus. See,
but why has it taken so long?
Well, Cyclone Hale happened when?
January.
Mid-January. We've just had Gabrielle. I think we have moved with speed.
It took you 10 days after Gabrielle to announce this inquiry. So it's 2 months since Hale.
It's 1 month since Hale.
Sorry, well, 6 weeks. Well, whatever. We can
anyway,
split the difference. Much longer.
The bottom line is we have listened. Well, look, I completely accept that things need to change. I accept that. 10,000 Tairāwhiti residents signed a petition. People of Gisborne want this to change as well. Keeping in mind, about 1 in 4 people in the Tairāwhiti district are connected somehow to the forest sector or forest wood processing.
Yes.
This is a really important part of the East Coast community. But we all acknowledge that things need to be done differently. But I do believe that forestry is the solution to a lot of the problems we've got up the East Coast. It's just the different management regimes, it's how we do it. Is it production forestry? Is it permanent forestry? And what needs to happen with harvesting / once harvesting operations conclude, or in the middle of harvesting operations?
I want to ask you, because we have been focused on the Hawke's Bay, and I was really surprised to see that this inquiry would not cover your own region. So how do those people get answers about what happened in the Hawke's Bay and get accountability from those forestry companies if it is required?
So first and foremost, this needs to be a quick inquiry, right? And it's down for about 2 weeks. So the inquiry team's going to report back in April. There have been a number of these instances in Tairāwhiti. Tairāwhiti region has a whole lot of highly erodible soil, so we need to concentrate on that as a matter of course.
But you could walk into Gum and do Tairāwhiti and the Hawke's Bay at the same time, Minister.
But don't expect that the recommendations that come out of this review will not be applicable to the forestry companies in Hawke's Bay. So there is a lot of work going on in forestry, and there has been a lot of work going on in forestry in the last 2 years and looking at the environmental benefits. But all I would say, Rebecca, is that it is not acceptable. We understand the issue, and we are putting in place solutions to the malaise we have seen there. So we are moving at, I think, a rate of knot, and expect to see myself as one of the sponsoring ministers of this inquiry, and David Parker as the other sponsoring minister of this inquiry, to move really quickly once these recommendations come out.
Kiwis deserve accountability, don't they, on this? Will you be bound by the recommendations of that inquiry?
Well, let's see what the recommendations come out, but we're not setting this up just to placate 10,000 people.
So you won't be bound?
Oh, no. Well, let's see the recommendations. But, this is a very serious inquiry with 3 very reputable, Honourable Heke Parada, Bill Bayfield, and a really serious forestry guy. I'm not filled with confidence, Minister. Let's see what the recommendations are. But this hasn't been put in place just to placate people. This has been put in place to get some really serious solutions to an unacceptable position we find ourselves in now, and we will act on this.
Let's hope for the people in Tairāwhiti and the Hawke's Bay that you do. Minister, thank you so much for coming on our programme.